Welcome, everybody, to PinstripeChronicles podcast. I'm Tats. I'm here with Donald and Rob, and you are listening on sportnarian.com/player for SportsWire Radio. And we had the series, World Series ending in, the series now goes back to Houston. They played their games in Atlanta. And I got to say, the World Series games overall so far this year have been very well played. The outcome, it's not one-sided. The games aren't really as lopsided as some of the scores may seem. So I actually think this has been a very entertaining series so far, despite what some of the national numbers might be. What's your guys' take?
I've very enjoyed the series, and I thought yesterday was a great game. Last night was a great game. After the Grand Slam, everyone thought, oh, that's it. The Braves have won the World Series. But you have to give credit to Houston, man. They are so good, especially in clutch and situational hitting. They know what to do. They drew long counts, and they got timely hits. And it was awesome to watch. And obviously I want the Braves to win, but obviously I'm not going nuts either way. I just want a really good series. So we got a really good series now. Here we go, on to Houston.
Yeah. Yesterday, you see that first inning grand slam and you're thinking it might be over, and then you realize there's still like 8 innings to play.
Yeah.
And Houston's offense is capable of putting 4 back on the board just like that, and they did it. But it's been a good series. That's all I wanted. I honestly, I don't care if Houston wins. I don't want them to, but I don't care. I want 7 games, so I'm hoping that's what we get now. But the other night we had a classic pitching matchup, and now we get the offensive game. So we've gotten a little bit of both in this series so far. It's been fun. There's been some exciting moments. Not that Joe Buck really gives you that when he's announcing it, but I like it so far. I'm happy with it, and I want a 7th game, so I'm hoping Houston takes Game 6.
Yeah, I want this to be a long series. Why not? I mean, listen, we got nothing else to talk about.
Well,
until
Braves in 6. So
until after Christmas, so we might as well have as long a World Series as possible.
No, well, we all said we had the Braves taking it in 6, so it's still, that can still happen. Our prediction can still come right, but it would have been nice. I was hoping, the more I was thinking about it, with everything with the passing of Hank Aaron and with the Braves history and everything they went through with the All-Star game, I thought, it would have been a nice end to the year of baseball, winning it in that stadium. So I thought that would have been a nice storyline touch for the Braves and their fans. So, but now we at least get to go back to Houston, and the Braves can take it over there, and their fans can, the Astros fans can watch another team celebrate on their turf. So that's also fun to think about.
Yeah. You want to watch Astros fans suffer? Yeah. I mean, I know Evan would love to see that. So maybe for Evan's sake, the Braves take it in Game 6, and he gets to see a few Astros fans cry. He'll be a very happy camper.
Yep. Has the bullpen become too exposed going deeper into the series because of the amount of innings that they've had to throw? Because you saw a little bit last night with AJ Minter. You saw they were starting to time up his pitches a lot better last night than the previous games. You see that a lot when you get to these type of series, where because they use the same arms that they've trusted over and over again, and they've been able to do the job, eventually the offense catches up to the pitching. Do you think that that's something that's going to have more of an effect or the same effect going into the next 2 games?
I mean, depends on that day. The day off is going to be big, I think. Braves bullpen has been needed. We talked about losing Morton, how big that's going to be, and clearly you're seeing it.
Yep.
They got a great pitching performance the other night, but National League rules and the way baseball is played these days, they took him out after like 5. What was it, no-hit innings? He had a no-hitter going, right?
Yeah.
No hitter for 5
Yeah, and
innings.
they
5
took him
innings,
out.
76 pitches.
So, and again, you had to bring in the bullpen probably sooner than you should have in a normal game. But as we've mentioned before, the World Series, it's everything just is different. But yeah, the bullpen is extremely important for the Braves. That's something you touched up on very early on, Tats, is how important they are. And maybe they're tired. They've been used a lot this postseason, a lot to get to the postseason. And maybe, I don't want to say they are, but maybe just at this moment they ran out of gas a little bit, a night to recharge, and we'll see if they go back at it tomorrow. But it's definitely, it happens all the time. Players get tired. It's just part of the game. You throw that much, your arm's eventually you're gonna have one bad outing. There's never been a perfect pitcher in the postseason. Not even Rivera was perfect in the playoffs. As good as he was.
Well, here's what good news for the Braves is that Madzek and Smith did
Arrested.
pitch last night, so that was good because they are the keys to the Braves bullpen. As I said at the start of the series, those two guys they're heavily lean on, and they've been great so far to this point. So they got a rest, so that's good. But I mean, how sustainable is this? They don't really have any starters now. I mean, let's be honest. They're just relying completely on their bullpen, and that's kind of where baseball's trending anyway. So the Braves seem pretty content with it, but at the moment, this is kind of like a record for the least innings for a starting pitcher, from the Braves' point of view over a course of a series, on a World Series anyway. So I personally, as a baseball fan, I don't like it because I want my starters to pitch. I'm old school. I want starters to pitch long, and if they're pitching well, keep them in. So I found it extremely problematic that a no-hitter was being pitched and he got taken out after 5 innings, which is almost unbelievable. I find that problematic, but that's just kind of the way baseball is trending. I mean, did you guys have a problem with him being taken out after 5?
Yeah, I thought it was. At first, I was more, what are they doing? You have a guy that it's not like he had a high pitch count. I was out and about, so I wasn't able to sit and watch that particular game. So I was just kind of following on the game day on the app. And, I don't remember that. Maybe was it a situation where was he due to come up to bat in the next inning that they did the switch? Because that was the only thing I thought of right away, that because it was such a tight game, maybe they had the pinch hitter because of a runner on base situation.
I think he was due up in the next inning.
Yeah, so it made no sense. I think they pulled him 1 inning too early. And they could have gone, and they really could have gotten him another inning out of him. It's not like, it didn't seem like he was getting, they were figuring him out. Especially you have a no-hitter, they haven't figured you out. You had a couple of walks, but
76 pitches as well.
It didn't make any sense. I think that was the first time you saw Snicker really kind of drop the ball a little bit, because he's really managed the series very well.
Well, it worked out though. I mean, that's the thing. It's not necessarily the move. I mean, it's just I don't think I'll ever be okay with somebody who's pitching a no-hitter and then be taken out after 5 innings, regardless. Especially in a World Series, because that's history right there. That guy was making history, and he deserved an opportunity to at least see if he could make that history. But if you're going by the book, and if you're going by the analytics, and if you're going by pitching lanes, which all modern baseball is, or a successful franchise is now, or good managers do now, that was how they set up. That was, if they could get 5 innings out of their starter and have a lead, then they were going to go into their bullpen. And that's exactly what they did. And it's by the book, yes, it worked. But as a fan of the sport, I think it's awful. But it's good for the Braves because they won, and that's the most important thing. But I don't like it.
Yeah, I agree. There's no need to pull the guy. Like we saw it last year with Tampa Bay. They pulled Snell, how well he was pitching, and it backfired. Didn't backfire this time for the Braves, but it could have. Yeah, you never know. I think sometimes you just have to ride the hot hand. And we talked about this before, how baseball is, where you don't really do that these days. You don't really ride the hot hand or hot and cold or whatever. But in a World Series, when your pitching staff is being used a lot and you're already down your best starter or one of your best, I didn't see the need to pull him then. I at least give him one more inning. And if he starts to falter, then, obviously you'd think you should have pulled him sooner. But you don't pull a guy when he's throwing a no-hitter. That's just he's obviously got something working if he hasn't allowed a hit through 5 innings against a really good offense. So I think give him another shot. You don't have to let him go 9. No one's saying that, but at least until he can't throw no more, he's a rookie.
If he wasn't too up in the lineup, why not give him another inning? And then make the decision then. It just really it doesn't make any sense, and I think that's where the analytics gets a bad rap, because it was I'm going to call it a very Yankee move. It was they scripted out. All right, our starter's going to go 5 innings, and then we're going to just throw in this guy, where now you have it where, because he's pitching so well, yes, let's take into account he's a rookie. So, which is also an advantage for the Braves, because it's not like he's been in the league a lot where there's a lot of book on him. So that was also an advantage for Atlanta, and they took that advantage away and put in a bullpen arm, and went to a series of bullpen arms that the Astros have seen in the last few days. So they're lucky they got out of that game with that win.
Yep, absolutely.
I just don't like it. You're right. It's pre-scripted. Games shouldn't be scripted beforehand, man. Games need to be played on the field at that time, managed from what you're seeing on the field. That's how it should always be. You know what I mean? Because obviously 24 hours before, when the analytics guys are coming up with a plan for that game, did anyone think that pitcher is going to pitch a no-hitter through 5 innings? No, of course not. No. So that's why you always need to manage what you're seeing on the field at that time. Yes. If there should always be room for negotiation, or room for maneuver, where if something beyond your wildest expectations is happening, you ride it. But it's such a problem for baseball now, man. Starting pitching has always been so important. You always get excited about a pitching matchup. You know what I mean? When I used to go to the ball game, I'd be like, who is starting for the Yankees tonight? Oh, it's Tanaka. Great. Or, oh, it's Roger Clemens. Oh, it's Andy Pettit. I'm seeing El Duque tonight. Fantastic. Can't wait. Right? Now, you don't even know if you're going to get more than 5 innings out of a starter. Or you might even get an opener.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's just the way that baseball is trending now, man. And I really hope that it trends the opposite direction. But it won't do it anytime soon, because it worked. And now the analytics nerds are like, it worked. What are you complaining about? And that's the truth. It worked. So what are we complaining about?
Yeah, because it worked once. It now all of a sudden it works. It's like we saw last night. What was the one mistake? They walked a man to load they walked Bregman to load the bases for Maldonado, and as soon as he did that, I was like, they're gonna get a hit. They're gonna get a hit, because it always backfires. We've seen them, and it does no favors for the pitcher. Now you completely eliminated making a mistake. You have to be absolutely perfect. We saw what it did to Chapman's mentality, and that was part of, and things just unravel from there. And that's what happened. The one thing that we had said that the Braves need to do is prevent Houston from putting up the crooked numbers. And that's exactly what they were able to do last night and get themselves back into a game. And Atlanta just really wasn't able to tack on any more runs aside from Freeman's home run to regain the lead. And then that was it. They were just shut down. It was almost like they felt, just the life left them. They had nothing left that game.
It's what the Astros do to people. You give them any slight bit of hope to come back in that game, and they're going to take advantage of it.
Yep.
They're too good of an offense. You put up 4 in the first inning, you're thinking, okay, we can probably hold on to this, but then one series of events later, and it's 9-5 was the final. It's just like you can't expect to keep Houston down for 8 more innings like that, especially when you're trying to go almost inning by inning with your pitching.
Yeah. I was so impressed with Houston situationally. Going down 4-0 on a grand slam on the road, and you're, one more loss and I'd say you've lost the World Series. I mean, that situation, to be in that situation, and Houston were so calm. They didn't rush any at-bats. They drew out long counts. They took walks when required. They took whatever the pitcher was giving them. They centered the ball. They were hitting the ball square. Were all over the field. And that's how they did it. They just chipped away. It was kind of like watching what the Yankees did back in the 90s. Do you know what I mean? Because they were really good as the game wore on, because they just chipped away. And that's what Houston did. And they didn't just rely on home runs. They just hit all over the field. I was so impressed with them. I maybe not shouldn't say that as a Yankee fan, but I was very impressed with them situationally. I think it was fantastic.
No, but as a baseball fan, it was the perfect approach.
It was, because just look at our approach in the wild card game. Because I was thinking that. I was comparing the two approaches during the wild card game. As soon as we fell behind, the Yankees completely fell apart. And they were only looking to hit home runs. They were looking to hit grand slams every single at bat. Right. And they completely lost track of who they are or how you get on the board and how you chip away. And they didn't get any coaching at any point during that ball game. At no point did anybody, the batting coach or Aaron Boone, go, listen, guys, you guys are panicking. Calm the hell down. Just start working the count. You'll get back in this ball game. Chip away. But they didn't do it. But Houston did. And that's why they're where they are and where the Yankees are, just watching from home. It really is. It's a lesson to all baseball fans. If you want an offense that works, that's how you do it, and it works really well.
Yeah, so I knew I had that gut that Houston was going to pull it off after that walk to Maldonado. Where he was standing in that batter's box, he was standing right on that edge, and he was like, all right, bases loaded, pressure's on the pitcher. I'm going to, step up in the box a little bit, crowd the plate. If I get hit, we get a run, and he just stood there and he took the first 2 pitches. The bat never even left his shoulder. And let's see if you can hit the strike zone with all this pressure on you. And before you blinked, he had a 2-0 count on him. And that's when you knew that things were going to turn ugly. I thought that was a very smart at bat by Maldonado, and that's what really got them going. And so, has there been a player this series that's kind of grabbed your attention at all, that you weren't expecting to have the series they were, good or bad?
That's a good question. Rob?
Trying to think. Correa hasn't necessarily done a ton. That's kind of been surprising. I think batting average wise, he was hitting below 100, I think.
He was great last night, though, 3 for 5 with 2 RBIs, and he played insane defense.
He's always good defensively. The guy's got a freaking missile of an arm. And if anyone doesn't want that at shortstop for us next year, I'm sorry. I think you're being a lunatic. But I would have said Correa, but he did have a good game last night. So I can't really remember off the top of my head like who's struggling or who's having a good series.
Altuve's struggling. He's 0 for 5 last night, 217 batting average.
Well, there you go. That was my pick for the RBI leader for Houston, so I kind of dropped the ball on that one there. I said to take our predictions with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
I was wrong on Peterson. I thought Peterson was going to have a big series because, he really helped them to this point, but he's been a non-factor in any of these games. I've been surprised about that. But I've been very impressed with Soler. I like Soler. He's been pretty good. And who else? I've liked from the Astros point of view. I'm impressed with Correa, I have to say. Even though he's not done anything sensational, I've been quite impressed with him. And I like Maldonado, man. I think you're right about Maldonado, and Gurriel's had a really good series too. But it's just mostly been a team effort. There's not been one guy that's really just stood up for both teams. It's been a really good team effort. For the Braves, Duvall's been good. With a grand slam, and then Freddie Freeman's always there. Darno, they've got some good players, and it's just that's what's been great about this series is there's a lot of depth on both sides, and it's each game there's different guys that have been stepping up. So I've been impressed with that. But defensively, Correa, oh my God, he's so good. How could you not want that? I completely agree with Rob right there. He is, even now that you're watching over a series, what he does defensively is outrageous. His arm is insane. It's stupid how good his arm is. So, yeah, I've been impressed with that.
Alvarez is having a rough series.
I was going to say Alvarez has been very disappointing. I thought he was going to really just continue that momentum from the LCS into the World Series, but they really – it's either they figured out how to shut him down or he just ran out of steam and the moment's gotten too big for him, being in the World Series. So, and on the Braves side, the one player that's really been disappointing, and I'm kind of not surprised, but you expected a little more, is Darno. And his at-bats have been sloppy. Behind the plate, he hasn't had to he made a couple of terrible throws when they were putting pressure on the base. Darno he went right back to how he was playing as a Met. And I know a lot of Mets fans are very much enjoying that. Because
he's actually had a pretty good stats-wise. He's been pretty good offensively. Defensively,
he's been kind of that can be a lie, especially in the World Series. If you're letting guys run all over you, it's very important to have a good arm behind the plate. I'm just saying.
Well, going into the World Series, this year alone, before the postseason, he had only thrown out. I think they showed a stat in Game 1. It was 2 out of 45 base runners he threw out. That's not somebody you want. I'm like, Gary could do better. Everybody wants to shit on Gary, but look at Darno as a catcher. And I know they're held to a different expectation.
Darno's a much better Gary Sanchez. Come on.
If you give Darno Gary's arm, then he becomes a very almost a complete catcher behind the plate. I think that's what the point was. He can't throw guys out, but he's definitely better defensively. But you need a good arm behind the plate as well.
Yeah,
that's Higashioka's issue. He can frame
350 so far. So I don't have too many complaints about Darno. Tell you who's been good. Riley. He's been quite good.
Well, Riley was the upside. I thought Riley definitely has stepped up. And on the Astros, Kyle Tucker's actually putting together a solid series. He's always finding himself at the plate with a big situation, and most of the time he's been putting together some good at bats. He's not faltering in the moment, and that's that's the eye test that you want to see when it comes to the World Series. Put the numbers away. How are they performing? Are they comfortable at the plate? Are they reading the pitches well? That's what's going to help you overcome. Going into yesterday's game, they also showed a stat that the Astros infield had a combined batting average, I think it was of 179 in the series. And I'm like, all right, that's terrible, but that's also not good for the Braves. Because once those guys get going with Bregman, Correa, Altuve, and Alvarez, if they just start to turn it on and they click when they get back to Houston, then the Braves are done. Because those aren't players that you keep, that stay down for too long of a period. So the Braves they got to continue to shut those guys down if they're going to get that one more win.
Bregman struggled.
Yeah.
But I was watching the broadcast, and prior to the game, Bregman worked all day in the batting cage, and he changed his swing so that he kept both hands on the bat right through the entire swing. That's what he was focusing on during batting practice, and then into the game where he got the RBI. That's what he did. So credit to him, because obviously he's one that was obviously he works really hard at his game and things like that. Especially when he's slumping, he tries to make mechanical tweaks, and so he made one there and it worked because he managed to get a big RBI. But he struggled immensely because prior to that hit, he couldn't hit the side of a glass barn.
Yeah. No, he was him and Altuve just looked lost.
Really did.
And you saw Altuve, he's just really getting, you can see some of his swings are desperate swings, and you're not used to seeing that from a guy like him. As much as you can't stand looking at him, he really, he is still a solid ball player. I can't stand it. I know, Rob.
To be fair,
those guys, they just annoy. I hate having to see them on TV. I really do.
He was robbed of a home run the other night too. Like he almost had a 2 home run night. I think it was Altuve. That was it. Soler who robbed him, or Rosario? Somebody. I don't know who it was.
Maybe. No, it was Rosario. Made that phenomenal catch. I don't think that would have cleared the wall though.
I think it might have. That's a pretty short wall out there.
Yeah.
Rosario looked like he got hit harder by the wall than anything. I mean, I don't know. That is either going to be a home run or it was going to be like a freaking rocket double. So that would have altered the batting average, especially when you have such few at bats. Probably would have knocked it up a good 20 points or something. And Altuve's hitting like 240, and you're like, oh, well, it's better than 217. So yeah, you got to take that into account. He's not doing what he usually does, but he has come up already a couple of times. He technically has moved up the leaderboards and home runs, but we know a lot of those don't count. So
yeah,
but he is coming up sometimes when it matters. So you got to give him a tiny bit of credit. I don't want to, but whatever.
But in general, you're right. The infield is struggling immensely. I mean, you're looking at 2 major pieces to that team, and they're providing very little. But if they heat up, then it's major trouble. But listen, their backs are still against the wall. They're down 3-2 going into 6 and 7. So what do you guys think? Do you think the Braves are going to steal one on the road and win the World Series?
I still do. I really do. I want to see them just get it over with. I don't want to play. I think going up 3 games, being 3 games to 1, and then having to end up in a game 7, I think can really mess with the psyche of an athlete. It's like we were right there. We let them, then you start to guess, can we actually beat this team? So if they're going to win the series, I think it's going to have to be tomorrow night. If it goes to game 7, I think Houston's going to take it.
I think it's going to 7. They got Fried going game 6. Houston tagged him for a few runs the other time. So I don't know if Houston's announced their starter yet, but I think it's going to 7. I want it to go to 7, but I also do believe it will go to 7. And I think the Braves will take it in game 7. But I think that tomorrow night Houston's going to win, and everyone's going to be like, oh, the Braves are going to blow it, and they're going to squeak out a win in game 7. It'll be like 4-3 or something. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, but I think it's still TBT for Houston. I'm just checking MLB website right now. It's Max Fried against TBT. I mean, that's ridiculous that we're in Game 6 of the World Series and it's still TBT who the Astros pitcher is going to be. I have so many issues with the way that starters are being delegitimized now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but Fried is a very good pitcher. He struggled the last time. That doesn't mean he's going to struggle again because he's had a very good year. He was actually in the NL Cy Young discussions.
Yeah.
He's been very strong pitcher for the Braves. So he could come around and do the job. And then they've also got a rested bullpen because Madzek has been key to their relief core. And then you add Smith, who's been their closer. They're pretty much set up. If they can get 6 out of Fried and then 2 out of Madzek and then 1 out of Smith, and they got a lead and they win the ball game, I think. I think the Braves might take Game 6. I'll maybe go
Smith
with that.
is feeling very good this postseason. He's 6 for 6 in his saves. They're big three in their bullpen. Minter, Matic, and Smith have really they've been lights out. I know Minter got
was awful
he was
yesterday.
on the mound last night when Houston took the lead for good.
Yeah.
But there were a couple of calls he got a little squeezed on. It's not completely the umpire either. If you're dominating, you're going to get the calls. But there really wasn't a lot of calls that you're like, that was a gift to either team. So I think the umpires, as much as they usually do get criticized, I don't think they're calling the games as one-sided as I expected.
Oh, they've been fine.
Yeah,
absolutely no issue at all.
No, they've taken over the game one too many times in the past, but this series you really can't.
Yeah,
you really can't pick at anything. It's like, the umpires did this. I do want to say, did you guys see that one? I don't know if you follow Pitching Ninja on Twitter. That Phil Mattson slider thing was absolutely disgusting. And if anyone says it's easy to hit a baseball, just watch that over and over and over again. That thing literally moves like a Frisbee. It goes from here to here in like half a second. And it's beautiful, disgusting at the same time. And it's just, how do these guys do it?
Whose slider was it?
Phil Mattone or Matton, however you say his name.
Oh, yeah. He had a good
No, he got the Astros do a very big inning last night too, where you had the heart of their lineup, and he just finished them off. And they've used him. He's been a guy that they've relied on and has come through for them. I think, as much as we were saying, we say we want to see the starters go further. I think the way that the bullpen arms are really grinding these innings out really should. These guys, you got to give tip your cap to the bullpens on both teams. They are really they're pitching to win. They've been really, really on top of their game. And any runs that they're not giving up easy runs. They're getting it's coming down to runners on base. Getting a good jump off the bat. And you're not seeing a lot of balls. They're not getting hit all over the place. So I've been very impressed with the bullpen for both teams. And I hope it continues the next couple of games. Hopefully, it's only one more game to play. But
what do you think of the atmosphere in Atlanta? It's pretty good.
They were on fire. They were ready.
They would have been literally on fire if they would have won that game last night. That's for sure. The crowd is always
stadium doing the job.
Yeah, and of course people had to turn it political because a certain person was there, but it is what it is. The crowd's always amazing, no matter who it is. When you hear that roar from the crowd, that's what we love about sports. When a big moment happens, like I remember, we love 2017. Remember when the Yankees came back against Houston when
Yep.
Sanchez hit the double, and the crowd just went nuts. And you haven't heard that from a Yankee Stadium crowd since like the 90s. They weren't even like that in 09 when we won the whole thing. But that was like, it's special when you hear the crowd, no matter what the sport is. Like I know as a Knicks fan, Donald, you know MSG when they go crazy, you hear it. You can't unhear it. So yeah, the roar of the crowd is always fun. That's why I'm glad everyone's back in the stadiums, and it is it's part of the sport. You know, when it's silent, like we were hearing during silent games, even though they had fans at the World Series last year, but still, you know, like we went from a year ago, we were having almost silence during most of the playoffs, and now we're back to normal. Technically, it's good to hear.
Yeah.
It is. It's fun. Adds an element to it.
All right. Well, we're actually gonna. That's the line we're gonna end this on. Just before you go, just remember, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Check out our social medias in the description. Remember, where your pinstripes for pride, play hard.